Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial, and today I'm here with my soul friends, Alejandro and Elena from Holistic.com, who are going to look for us at the year 2023 at the vibrational energy of the year. Hello, Elena. Hello, Alejandro. Thank you so much for joining me. I love talking with you because you always illuminate us from a different perspective, not astrological, but another esoteric, spiritual, plus scientific. You're into quantum science. That's what I would call what you're doing, isn't it? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you do those measurements that are scientific, that use the newest science developments, plus we look and get answers in everything that we can't get normal answers with?
Yes, hi Lada, thank you so much. We're so happy to be here with you always. And we're excited as always also to share, because our mission, of course, is to illuminate, as you said, to illuminate our path, bring more light into what is happening on this planet. Because sometimes it's hard to perceive, right, beyond the veil. And we love to investigate. So we've kind of stumbled, the system came to us using first scalar wave technology for medical purposes, looking into why certain chronic viruses were appearing in a person's physical system, and why, for example, they would be coming back over and over again. Because again, my background is in medicine and pharmacy, functional medicine, moving into energy medicine back in 2007. So we began to question, why is it that some people would get sick and this chronic condition would be coming back over and over again? And we were able to tie in a very specific virus with information that was imprinted into the biofield, right? What is the biofield? It's a morphogenetic field, another term for it, but now it's actually used in science. The biofield is the actual science. It's a record keeper of absolutely everything that is going on, that has happened in the past, that is happening now. Of course, there's many probabilities moving towards the future. So there's many different paths that we can choose. So this is why Alejandro and I tried to never look too much into the future. But we have been able to, using the scalar wave technology, to kind of look at the highest probabilities. And we like to call it highest probabilities because we usually want to make sure it's as close to 100% as possible in order for us to share the information.
And you do it in a specific way. You measure it separately, and then you confirm that you've gotten the same results with the quantum technology that you use.
Yes.
And that's on the scale of consciousness. Can you tell us a little bit about the scale of consciousness for anyone who doesn't know about it, so they can understand the measurements?
Yes, of course. First of all, we want to acknowledge the first person, we can say the first person that has brought a scale. It was called the map of consciousness. And we're going to reference Dr. Hawkins because it's important to give credit to somebody who created this. Now, he looked at one number. Alejandro and I, and he used kinesiology, Alejandro and I use scalar wave technology, and we've expanded the scale. And why did we do that? We're calling it the vibrational frequencies of awakening scale. Also, we've recognized that the scale is never linear because time is not linear. Everything is fractal in the universe. And if you've looked into our past episodes, we've used more of a linear scale, and we've transitioned out of it into the nesting doll scale. And this nesting doll scale, and we'll provide the link, by the way, below, right, has a lot to do with our levels of awareness. And everything is being built and everything else. So the divine essence, that is the frequency of 1000, is actually the smallest nesting doll. And it is that pure essence that exists in every vibration, in every human being, in every sentient being, because we're all God particles and the divine light that is within. So it's really about awakening to all that we are. That is the smallest particle, but it is the most important and the most luminous aspect. Now, we also broke down the scale into 5 aspects. So the first part is the victimization mentality, right? And this is what we realize, that most human beings are in this victimization, which is anything below the frequency of 200, so from 0 to 199. Then we have activation. Activation is 200 to 499. Then we have something that's called inspiration, when we feel inspired. And we all create on every one of those different aspects, right? Different levels. And then the last one is called the illumination. And that's the one that begins at the frequency of 700 to 999. The 1000 aspect, we've seen avatars, as we call them, avatars that incarnated in the past. And also, for example, Leonardo da Vinci, very interesting read on him, because he had this 1000 frequency in his creativity. So he was able to transcend time and space and bring all of the beautiful creations, you could say, from the future, right? And people can say it's time travel, because time becomes irrelevant, right? Past, present, and future all happening in the now. So that's that 1000 frequency, when you're able to absolutely, without resistance, connect to it.
And one fascinating thing that sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but sorry.
No.
I forgot what I was going to ask. So
It's called COVID brain, just so you know. And I think this is important to also, right?
It's
talk
been,
about,
I've had
right?
it 1 year ago, and it's still affecting me. And it's as I said, it's a bioweapon. I don't know, what did you measure for COVID?
It was 50. I think it was frequency of 50. But so many people have actually long COVID, and it's impacted so many people in so many different ways, whether they've had the shot or they've had the actual virus, right? Or whatever you want to call it.
Whether it's the shot or the actual virus. And
Yes. And again, going back to what Elena mentioned before, what triggered our curiosity is to figure out why certain people were experiencing recurring symptoms, right? Once that was resolved, there's still 6 months later, we'll come back and we'll be experiencing the same symptoms and the same things, and the same virus will appear. It's because they leave their energetic signature in the biofield, right? It's sort of like they place their information in your etheric library, which is the biofield, we can call it. So the same thing happens with people that they have experienced the COVID virus. Even though you no longer experience the symptoms, it's still sometimes there is still an underlying condition that comes up to the surface, because the energetic imprint remains in the biofield.
Yeah, the biofield.
Wow. But the virus actually creates havoc in the body. Actually, I just interviewed, I don't know if you want to have it on here, but I interviewed a fascinating physician who was the first one to sequence actually the virus in the stool in 2020. Her lab was the first lab to sequence it. And she's seeing a pattern, right, of what kind of things besides heart condition, the brain, right, what it actually does by wiping out the good gut flora. So, and your gut is directly linked to your brain and your nervous system. That's your vagus nerve. So absolutely, it will create massive issues. And we see so many people suffering after they've been sick now for a year or two.
It's crazy. Oh, the only thing that was helping you was eating super healthy and lots of supplements, but the highest grade, purest supplements. It's almost like my body was stripped of all the goodness and I'm still trying to restore it. Whoever made this thing, it's a genius, evil genius. But I want to say that if anyone wants to, what Elena and Alejandro are talking about, they have an extensive library of they've recorded the frequencies of everything, and whoever is part of their community, they give suggestions. Check this person's, this celebrity, this prime minister, this medicine, this event that's happening, and check the vibrational frequency of any event, past, future, present, existing people, dead people. So if you want to be part of that community, I'll put the link below. It's a link that takes you to that. It's subscription monthly. There is hundreds of videos. I had a binge period of just falling asleep, walking everywhere,
Yes.
listening. People that interest me from history, from current times. And when you're part of the community, you can give your suggestions and they'll do the reading. So join the community. It's absolutely fascinating. They discover so many things. What is the right teaching, the highest vibrational teaching, the lowest vibrational. So I'm very excited that you're going to share with us the year 2023. What is your, but let's recap. Last year, Elena and
For this year, 2022.
but we did it in 2021.
21. Yes.
We did.
And we did an interview, and you said that the vibration for the year 2022 is 125. And when you measured other years like that, it was the vibration of war. And I kind of laughed and I said, we're in the middle of pandemic. Who wants to make wars? But here we are, guys. And your prediction was bang on.
Yes, thank you. You know, for us, sometimes we don't know what it means, but we just understand that the numbers have a story, and numbers also quality. It's not necessarily quantity like we think, but it's a way to describe what is. So these numbers, of course, have very specific definitions. And so let's go back to 2020, before the pandemic started. I think this is important.
Yes. And the definitions are linked to an emotion, right? And we have measured the particular emotion that is tied to every level of consciousness that we're about to describe. And the frequency of that emotion matches that number, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's go start again before we dive into 2023. 2020, before March, the human collective consciousness was in the frequencies of 200s. I can't remember, it was 205, and then it went up to like 230 almost, right? Or 225.
Yes.
So we were on the activation path. And then pandemic happened, and Alejandro and I said, okay, well, let's measure to see where we are. And the human collective consciousness dropped to a frequency of 100, which is the frequency of worry and fear. So it absolutely reactivated something that collectively we chose to work through. Mm-hmm. So again, we are working through it collectively and individually.
In a way, we were forced to work through it, you know, like we haven't much of a choice. Right, exactly.
Yes. And then this year, the frequency, we've talked about it last year and we've rechecked, it went up to 125. So the year of 2022. And we did an entire episode looking at world events over the last 100 plus years, right? Looking at different wars, civil wars, World War I, World War II, revolutions. And they all had this very similar, actually exactly the same frequency of 125, which is the unfulfilled desire. It's this addiction, the desire to want to make a change. Okay. Now, this year, coming up, 2023, what is interesting, initially a couple of years ago, we looked and we said, oh, human collective is going to rise. But this was before the pandemic happened. So now looking into 2023, we're going to go through over 35 categories, actually. The overall frequency for the human collective is 150. And 150... and we'll go through every month of what happens next year. So 150 is the frequency of rage, okay? Anger and rage. And we always say with Alejandro, you know, you rarely see this frequency in people because we've read thousands and thousands of people by now. Mm-hmm. But one thing is for sure, that it takes rage in order to create a change.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And whenever we have found this frequency, as we reveal the numbers for someone who has booked the lifetime vibrational frequency, I think you have done that too, right?
Yes.
Yes. The 150, usually, I would say like at least 80% of the cases, it serves as a catalyst. It propels the person to go and experience a higher level of consciousness. Some of them use it for the opposite, right? And instead of experiencing a higher level of consciousness, they actually go lower on the scale. But the majority actually experience a an awakening, going to, you know, pride, the 175, and then going to the 200, the activation, and so forth. You know?
But one thing that came very clearly, because yes, we retrieve these numbers using scalar wave technology, but then information comes through and it's so clear. And I said to Alejandro, this reminds me, again, from an astrology perspective, it's a very Aries kind of energy. It's like this warrior kind of energy. If you think of a Wonder Woman or your favorite superhero, right? This is the energy that is very much for 2023 through the lens of vibrations. And now we're going to give you the breakdown of absolutely every aspect, again, from a collective perspective.
It's kind of like I've had enough, and now there's got to be something else, and I'm ready to search, you know,
that's exactly when you said it reminds you of Aries. The year 2023 is an Aries year. Jupiter.
Oh, there you go.
Aries. The North Node is in Aries. Everything is about get angry and do something new. It's
amazing.
Fire of activation. The whole year, I named it the year of Aries this year.
Yes, it's a fire. It's going to be the year of fire.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Amazing. I love it. So now we're going to go into, so I'll give the vibrational frequencies. Alejandro will dive into percentages, which are irrelevant to frequencies. And then also he'll give you the frequencies for every month.
I wouldn't say necessarily irrelevant to frequencies. I would just say they're not determined specifically by frequencies.
There you go. Yeah. Health. How do we as a collective, again, this is not specific to each individual, but one thing I will say, these numbers, even though we're looking at the collective, it's an invitation for every one of us. Instead of pointing the finger and saying, I'm not one of those people, it's an invitation to look inside. Because what is happening on the macrocosm is happening on the microcosm. As above, so is below. So this is an invitation for every human being to look inside into your own patterns in order to create the change. So health, the collectively review health through the lens of 125. 125 is this kind of addicting, unfulfilled desire, but we're searching. We're searching as collective. Perhaps because of where we were the year before, which was a frequency of worry and fear in health department, right? Now we're wanting to make a change because, as we've just discussed a couple of minutes ago, so many people are not well.
Like impulsivity, right?
Yes.
Impulsive. Yeah.
So now we looked at 3 different aspects of health. First one is our relationship to our mind, which is 125, relationship to the body, 50, and relationship to the soul from a collective perspective is 200. So it's very interesting because collectively we are connected. We're in this activation phase. From a body perspective, nothing is changing next year as far as the body, but the mind is leading the way because the mind is the 125. And usually body follows what the mind, how the mind is leading. Wow. So this is going to be the change that we will see is people are going to start realizing I have to change perhaps my thinking patterns, how I view life. And eventually we'll look later at 2024. It will be interesting to see how the body will follow that.
Yeah.
Finance.
People already having a stronger, a 200 connection to their spirit. People are turning to the spirit for their physical well-being and health, which is the highest reading. It's surprising.
Yes. The soul connection and having that. So, you know, you've heard people say that since the entire pandemic, those that had the shot versus now they're disconnected. We're not seeing that necessarily disconnect from the soul. There's other aspects that we've tracked and we've talked about in our episodes, which has to do with emotional intelligence. And we'll talk about that. So we're seeing that people who've had the shot, they have their emotional intelligence kind of disconnected, and there's very specific genes that we've been able to pinpoint that are linked to that. So there's genes that are turned off, but it doesn't make a person disconnect from their soul.
They can connect to God, and even if you've been vaccinated, whatever, had COVID, they can still connect to God and to all. But something about what is emotional intelligence? Ability to Compassion.
So there is an intellect, which we measure in the IQ, right? That's how you process information. But the superior way to process information is the intelligence. It's the divine connection. It's the way that we connect through our emotions, through our compassion, ability to be compassionate towards one another.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that human beings have that is so different from other species, you can say, on this planet.
Contributes to your discernment, contributes, to your clarity, yes, and to make decisions, sound decisions, without resistance. The higher your EQ, the easier it is to just see things how they are, and not having the need to judge them. Because when you judge them, you bring more resistance, and it becomes a lot more difficult to make a sound decision, that is in alignment with what you want to experience from a soul level perspective.
Yes. So now we're going to go into finances. So last year's finances, we were in overall vibrational frequency of 100, worry, fear. This is interesting because 2023, we're going to go into this fire 150 frequency. So again, there's going to be anger that's going to enrage, that is going to rise up in how collectively we view financial systems.
Oh, we're gonna get angry. Financial I see this happening. I feel it absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Creativity. Of course, we are creative species, right? That is a given. We've looked at so many different readings, and this is something that cannot be taken away from humanness, right? From who we are. And the overall frequency is 5. Yes, it's 500. So again, it's this flow state. So as a species, we have this ability collectively to create. We are creators, divine creators, and also co-creators. And this is the beautiful aspect, that this fiery change that we're about to embark on in 2023 also stems from something that is innate to our nature, and that is the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships. How do we view relationships? So this is a big change from this year. So this year, 2022, the frequency is 100. So there's a lot of worry, fear linked to how we relate to other people. In 2023, this is a big shift. It's a frequency of 200, which is this activation, courageous, heroic frequency. So there is something that awakens collectively within all human beings, and that is the heroic aspect. So this is why I brought up the Wonder Woman, or your favorite, maybe it's the Gladiator energy, right? The Gladiator film character, and that is the fiery energy combined with this courage that is just coming out.
Oh, so we'll seek out the right people. We'll become more courageous and initiative into connecting with the people we want, and speaking, if we're hurt about something, speaking and saying it rather than being fearful, or out of pride, I shouldn't say that. No, you're becoming, wow, I love that. Thank you.
And more connected. We're becoming more connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also looked into how we relate to ourselves. And again, so this will be a little bit of a difference. So we relate to ourselves through a heroic lens. So that means in the last couple of years, we have gone through this hero's journey of having a fall in a way, but it is the phoenix rising, because the way that we are relating to ourselves, if we relate to ourselves through a connective process, it's going to be much easier to connect to others through that lens as well. So relationship to self is 200. Relationship to others is 125. We did not measure that last year, but we were in a totally different frequency. So 125 means that we are collectively seeking for connections. We're wanting to establish connections, right? But it is important to recognize that only when we activate that courageous aspect within ourselves, that we can recognize that in another. And this is exactly what's going to happen in 2023 collectively. So that's a massive awakening, you can say.
Yes, and I would say the desire, in a way, never goes away, right? Because that is what that is what makes you set goals and project, what you're wanting to experience, and so it brings an important energy to the equation. But when we dwell too much in desire, we create resistance, right? So the better we feel with ourselves, the higher we vibrate, therefore the lower the level of resistance. Therefore, even if we have desire, we're not too attached to that desire, and so we can enjoy life a lot more, But when we're experiencing the 125, the unfulfilled desire, then that means that there is desire for change, desire for something new, for a new experience, but it's attached to resistance, right?
Now, intuition. So this is interesting because our intuition is changing as well. So we're becoming much more connected. And again, next year is more the year of courageous connection. That's what I should call it, courageous connection, because our intuition collectively this year is 125. Again, this addiction, unfulfilled promise, unfulfilled desire, 125. For 2023, it's 200. So now we're activating our innate ability. So if anyone tells you you're not intuitive, we're speaking to the audience listening, this is a big wake-up call, because we all have it within us, right?
Mm-hmm.
To really connect and trust that inner dialogue that's happening, of how we filter information that's coming through. So this is a massive change from 125 collectively intuition to 200.
Yes, and we are all channelers, by the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's one of our guys' readings together with creativity.
Yes. So now we're looking into the 4 aspects of intuition. Okay. Clairaudience is when we receive messages. Some people will say, I hear my angel speaking to me. I hear my inner guides, my higher self speaking through, right? So overall, that energy stays the same. It's 125. Clairsentience is feeling in the body, and that's a change. It's a change from 100 this year to 2023, it's 200. So again, we are activating something also, because a lot of times clairsentience is linked to our physical system, our health. How do we relate to body, mind, and soul, right? So this is also a big change. We're starting to listen to what it is that our body and all the senses, right, that we're using, whether it's the touch, the smell, right?
It's like getting goosebumps when you hear something. It's like, oh, your body's telling you something. Or
yes. So this is saying that we are starting to pay more attention. Clairvoyance is the ability to visualize. And we went from 200 to now 310. We're eager. And this is oftentimes related to creativity. So it's also showing that not only we're creative, but we're excited to envision perhaps this new world, the new earth, and the beauty of what humanity is able to achieve. So this is a wonderful thing. And claircognizance, which is your inner knowing, when you know, you know. And some people have very tuned in guidance into their claircognizance. And we went from 125 collectively to now 200. So again, we're starting to trust what it is that we have an innate knowing for.
This
IQ,
like we had to dip down, like we had this dip down in the last 2 years, so we can shoot up much higher. Something this darker, lower vibration made us like want to jump out much higher. So maybe it will continue like that. Who knows? Maybe that was the trick.
Yes. Kind of like we were forced to go inward. We were forced to rely on our own inner power. And then due to the deceptions of many things that we don't agree with, that we have experienced, especially in the last couple of years, that we somewhat were not willing to trust and rely too much in what the outer world is presenting, and we're relying more on what is it that I can do, right? How can I improve my reality? And the only way is inward. The only way is going inward.
It was an opportunity for us the last couple of years to get to know ourselves.
Yes.
And slowly master ourselves. All right, the IQ. So again, I'm going to give you the 4 numbers of how we interpret information. So we're not measuring how smart somebody is, but collectively this year, IQ is 175, okay, which is pride and vanity. So this is relying on information, thinking, oh, I know it all, right? And this is where we are moving forward also. And this is just an overall number again for majority or the collective consciousness of how we perceive information, IQ. EQ has not changed. The emotional intelligence, it was at worry and fear, and it still is. SQ, social quotient. And oftentimes we talk about how do we feel when we are networking, when we're having to talk to people. Actually, right before we started, you said you've been wanting to be a hermit, right? And it's also very interesting because sometimes it takes that in order to get to know ourselves better. We need to kind of create that time out. So in 2022, SQ, the social quotient is 100. And moving into next year, it's 125. So again, this desire to want to connect, desire to want to perhaps see what else is out there. Okay. AQ, adversity quotient. This is how we deal with challenging situations. It's our autopilot. It's the programming that we inherit. It doesn't mean it has to stay that way. And we went from worry and fear, AQ, to 150 in 2023. Again, this fire, rage is coming out. So the way that challenging situations, when they hit us collectively, rage is going to rise, and maybe I haven't heard what you had to say also about wars and what's going to happen next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to stir up even more.
Billions rising, and it's going to be growing more and more. It's starting next year, the Mars energy, but Pluto is going into Aquarius, and that's rebellion. And for 20 years, on and off. We're not going to stop. We're not going to sit quietly. Majority.
Yes. So you can see that this is the 150 frequency. It's actually so palpable because it's not often that we read frequencies that have a lot of this 150 in it. So this is a great example for humanity just to even recall in the future, this is what that 150 felt like. It's this warrior 150 fire.
So we were in almost like a victim state, below like 100. You're scared, you're petrified when you're scared, you don't take action. Now we're going into action, but we're angry. That's why we're going into action. It's better.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, which in a way is still in the victimization mentality mode, because you're angry because you feel that is your neighbor's fault of what you're dealing with. Your neighbor's fault is a fault for the struggles that you're dealing with, that you're experiencing. Is the world the world's fault of whatever I'm feeling internally, right? And then you just want change, no matter what. Now it's time to change, and so it still is within the victimization mentality, but we're moving towards detaching from the programming, because everything stems from the programming, right? All the information that we have acquired from birth, we have been programmed with since birth up to now, plus whatever information that has been transferred from the previous generations, So it's
and we can jump from fear into abundance and everything's perfect. You need to go up the scale, and the next step is get angry.
And there's no spiritual bypassing, by the way, there isn't. And this is, I would say, such a beautiful journey. If you really kind of step back and see what we're doing, is we're going through our dark night of the soul for the last couple of years collectively.
Our own hero's journey.
Our own hero's journey as humanity, yes. And the future is to be determined, but I think it's as long as most human beings begin to look deep within, this is a very promising future.
Beautiful.
Now we go into percentages, and I said that it's not necessarily irrelevant or apart or away from frequencies, because it does the frequency that you're experiencing, it does impact how much time you spend in the present moment. You know, the higher the frequency, the freer you feel, and the more connected you are with your inner being, the less resistance you're experiencing. Therefore, it's easier to stay in the present moment, fully engaged in whatever it is you're doing, because there's no worry of fear about that the past is going to be repeated in the near future, you know? So now we go into joy as of how much, as collectively, we're enjoying the role that we're playing, or that we're going to be playing in 2023, and it's 61%. Yes, which was
The same.
Exactly the same as
This year.
as it's going to be in 2022. Now, in the ego, how much we pay attention to the ego, which is just thought, information, right? It's not negative or positive, good or bad, right or wrong. It's just information, which is part of the programming that we mentioned. And it's 98% because of what we're going through, as of what's next, the uncertainty, you know, the fear, the worry, and the anger to wanting and desiring change. Since there's still uncertainty, we have to attach to the known, which is the thought, the information, that which has proven to work or not work, right? So that's why it's 98%. And within the ego, we have two types of ego: the inferior version of the ego and the superior version of the ego. And these are just types of thoughts. When we pay attention to the thoughts that gives us a sense that we might not be good enough, or that whatever we do is not good enough, that's the inferior version of the ego, right? And in 2023, out of the 98% in the ego, 100% is in the inferior version of the ego.
So we feel we're not good enough collectively as a species.
Right. Yes. Now, in the now, how much time we spend in the now, or we're going to spend in the now, or in the present moment, is 57%. So we're still, because at the frequency of 150 is anger. Yeah, we can use that to propel us to move up to the next level. There's still uncertainty, there's still fear, there's still worry, there's still a lot of resistance there, right? To experience. So we're reminding ourselves of the past, and we definitely don't want to experience it in the future, right? No way, I'm not going through this again, right? So that's why almost half of the time we're reminding ourselves of the past and worrying that it's not, hopefully not being repeated in the future. So we're not fully present, obviously. Now, when it comes to integrity, how loyal and faithful we are to our core values and beliefs, you know, to our truth, is 80%. And when it comes to integrity to self, 81%. And integrity to others, 93%.
No, we're people pleasers. That's what that means. We're in high integrity to others. So that's from the insecurity of the inferior ego.
That we might not be good enough, so therefore we have the need to receive validation of what we're expressing, right? Or confirmation.
Yeah.
And it is remains the same as of 2022. Integrity to others was also, or is, 93%. So that hasn't changed much when it comes to the integrity. Self-awareness in 2022, 55%, 2023, 56%. Clarity, a little bit, yes, little improvement. Clarity, 2022, 81%, 2023, 83%. Also a little improvement. Now, when it comes to alignment with divine purpose, the same. 2022, 99%, and 2023, 99%. So
we're on the right track. Whatever is happening, that's how we should be.
Yes.
Exactly.
Beautiful. sure that we're not
We're not off track.
It's
we're
a
not
great
like
indication.
Atlanteans were very off, wasn't it, when we measured? They were very much higher vibration than us collectively, but they were off the path
Of their path.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is
That's what caused their destruction, right?
yes. This is a beautiful. Actually, when we give vibrational frequency analysis, people say this is their favorite number they want to know because they really want to know it. You know, they don't care where they are vibrationally, but they care to know if they're walking their divine path. And I will say this is a great invitation for people who feel, oh, you know, we're doomed, humanity is doomed, and we're not in the right place. And I will say that based on the vibrational frequencies and what we're doing, we're absolutely on our path. And this is infancy. We're at the infancy stages, but even as infants, we are very much connected and divinely guided.
Yes, and it is easier actually to transcend to higher levels of consciousness because we have access to a lot more information, you know, everything that has been experienced before for generations, for thousands of years, about millions of years. So even though we're going through this, we might be going through it, I'm sure we have been at this stage before in the past, right? Throughout history. But it becomes easier because it's no longer an unknown territory, right? It's just a matter of, okay, now we have to reconcile the discrepancies and the differences and realize that we're all one and we're working together for one common purpose, right? And now it's just a matter of paying attention to our thoughts and reminding ourselves often that we are carrying the most powerful force in the universe within us, right? So we have to exercise our free will and bathe in that energy as often as possible to come out of this a lot faster than we expect, you know? Now, when it comes in alignment with divine purpose, we compare this to self-realization somehow. You know, what the role that the soul wants to experience, or even the persona wants to experience on a soul level, right? It's when you're in alignment with the persona self, with the divine self. And it's just definitely a beautiful number. Alignment with personal self, personal purpose. We compare this to what the persona self wants to experience, right? Wants to accomplish in this lifetime. It's more, I will say, as the humanness. And it's at 95%. We compare this to self-actualization, right? So it's exactly the same as it is in 2022. Now, compassion also remains the same at 100%.
100% compassion.
That's easy.
100%. Wow. So we feel other people's pain, even if we're shadow players.
Well, and now depending on the level of consciousness that the person is experiencing, because you could be very compassionate and feel it, but if you're experiencing the level of 100, which is worry, fear, then that's how you're going to process. That is going to impact your reaction. That's how you're going to pretty much relate to other people and express your compassion, right?
But just to clarify, Lada just said, is it the same for shadow players, or what we call the great awakeners? Because this is a big pie of the human collective, right? So that means there are people in here that are 800, like we've measured somebody who is 850, Bruce Lipton, right? Or people that are 500, 400, 100. So it's a combination of the human collective. And yes, the great awakeners are also in that pie. Do they experience the same amount of compassion? Absolutely not. So from our previous episodes, for those that have watched it, you'll see that their compassion is nowhere near, or the empathy, as where we are as a human collective overall. But they're playing an awakening role to wake up those that have been asleep for a while.
But it seems then they're not such a big number if the majority overwhelms it and we're 100% compassionate. The majority,
right.
like some kind of rare, and usually they're very high up. It starts
Yes.
when you measure this, usually kind of what we call psychopaths, high up, where
That's
they
right.
have the same kind of reaction. You see someone suffer like a normal person would be, but they're usually they're not. Of course, there's some at the bottom feeders, but usually they reach the tops.
Yes.
Anyway.
Out of 8 billion, I don't know. We didn't calculate how many are that, but I would say it's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage out of the 8 billion people in the
Right.
world, right? So it's insignificant. So this is another red flag for people. Aha moment. Oh, if they don't really contribute to this, right? What are we capable of doing as humanity?
Yes, because often you hear this narrative that the 1% is responsible for everything that we're experiencing that goes against to what we decided to experience, right? But actually, that 1% is an imaginary power that they hold.
Yeah. And it's
You know,
probably 0.001%.
Exactly.
exactly. Now, when it comes to empathy, is 100%, which is the same as 2022. Energy purity, 100% as well. And this is just indicates how much the person is embodying the current level of consciousness or the overall frequency that is experiencing, right? So in this case, in 2023, at 150, the level of consciousness that we're going to experience collectively, that means that when it comes to energy purity at 100%, that means that we're embodying it to the fullest. And that's why it could be bringing or attracting revolutions and more wars and conflicts and major drastic changes, or at least being in the works towards that,
I remember you also told me before that energy purity is when you're at such a high percentage, like 100%, you're ready to take the high, to evolve as well. And the more you embody your current energies, like, okay, you experience it, you're ready to move to the next level. So there is great hope here that we're going to keep moving with the following years vibration.
Yes.
And you will see that in the breakdown.
Great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Actually, you'll see it in the breakdown. Alejandro will give you now with every month of what's happening.
Yes, and it matches what you just brought up.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when it comes to dimensions, how often the human collective in 2023 is going to experience the fifth dimension, then it will be 21% of the time.
That's a state of being, isn't it? The fifth dimension is not like you being in some other world. It's being here in an emotional state of some sort.
Exactly.
I also equate it to imagine looking at the world through a keyhole in the door versus swinging the door open. That's the difference.
Okay.
And that's what the dolls come into play, right? She
The
says
nesting dolls.
the nesting dolls. She says they're Russian dolls. I say they're Peruvian dolls. They look like from the Andes. They look like from the Andes, different color, very colorful.
I didn't know you had Peruvian dolls in Andes.
Yes, of course. I know. I went to Machu Picchu in 2010. I'm actually originally from Peru, and I remember the dolls, very colorful. And then you will open one up and find smaller dolls inside, and the nesting dolls. We do that too. You thought it was just a Russian thing?
Yeah.
Okay, now when it comes to the frequency of every month that we're going to be experiencing collectively in 2023, in January will be 125. Again, this unfulfilled desire, right? In February will be 130. In March, 140. And this goes along with what you said, the 100% energy purity, right? That when you get to that level, you're ready to experience the next level. Yes. In April, 150. In May, 150. maybe astrologically you
I'm
can pair
curious.
them, right? I'm
Uh-huh.
curious to see how
you
you can
know.
match it, right? In May 150, in June 150, in July 150, in August 150, September 150, October 160, November 175,
Oh, wow.
and December 175.
So next year we see a change. But I'm so curious, because when we were reading, and there's a lot of that 150. So we have it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For 6 months, we experience this
So what
rage.
happens
And
is
I
that
will,
in March, two of the most important planets are changing signs, Pluto and Saturn. So there is a vibrational shift happening around March into April. And astrologically, as we see, when the changing signs, Pluto is going into Aquarius. This is the combination of revolution, Pluto in Aquarius. When last time Pluto was in Aquarius, the French Revolution happened, the American Revolution happened. It's for independence, so huge. And it started by people getting pissed off. Of course.
there you go.
Exactly.
Lada, wow. So you just
That's-
confirmed, because when we read it, I'm like, I wonder if during those months we'll see big revolutions, wars, civil wars happening in different pockets around the world, because of the amount of time it's going to last. But then I wonder, astrologically, if you saw a change in November and December of next year.
There is eclipses around that time, October, November, and they usually bring a big shifts starting to happen. And from December onwards, I don't remember off the top of my head now, but I really like, maybe Christmas raises the vibration, but no, there must be something more, because that's a huge jump. Because as you've checked, Elena and Alejandro checked many years before, and people would stay at the same vibration for decades, hundreds of years below, certain number. And now the numbers are moving so fast, it's crazy. So dynamic.
That's exciting.
What's happening but I know that the eclipses always make some big shift. And they're October, November, and then I have to check what's happening December. I forgot now.
Okay. So I think this confirms a lot, perhaps based on some of your findings as well, right? From the astrological perspective.
Next year, the energy shifts astrologically. So big for a lot of new beginnings and for a lot of new energy, exactly like you saw it. You saw it through quantum and through the scale of emotions. And we see it through astrology, and the scale of emotion that is very strongly activated is Aries, Aquarius. Aquarius is rebellion, Aries is initiative, action, anger. And both the most innovative signs, they're the ones that trigger the biggest changes and actions. There we go. It's such a great confirmation. We started to come out of the hole we were put in, and we allowed ourselves to be put in. But that was very necessary, it seemed, for us, because now it's such a big kick off upwards. We reached the bottom, now we're kicking off.
Yeah. And it's been, I would say, the last couple of years has been clearing of the collective ancestral patterns, because in order for us to move into these higher levels of consciousness that Alejandro and I saw when we did an episode with you, in years 2046, right, for example, it's not just a new generation, but we collectively also are asked on a deepest level, on a soul level, to awaken and clear past ancestral traumas and all these unprocessed limiting beliefs. So this is a beautiful work that we are doing together.
Yes, because we're also programming our children, right? And then our children are going to be programming their children. So it is about transmuting it, or doing our best to transmute it now, so that we can accelerate that process of, and evolve, and the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah, it's high time. I don't think people were as introspective as to the recent years and generations. And what you measured, I'm still so fascinated that the year 2045 and onwards, suddenly the vibration of humanity goes over 500. What was it?
Mhm.
It was super.
2045, it was 350, but then it goes into 500 or above 500.
525.
525,
Wow.
I think.
Which is
26.
incredible. This is the one of the
Short time.
lightened states. Suddenly the whole, and this hasn't happened for thousands of years. That hasn't
Right.
happened
Exactly.
once. And when you said the year 2045, one of the things that happens that Pluto comes out of Aquarius then and moves to another sign. But I remember the prophecy, and it's from my teacher. He's the teacher of the age of Aquarius, being Saduno. I don't know if you've ever measured his vibration, but he made a prophecy 100 years ago. And he said that that was before communism had come to my country. And even the Pope came to see him, prime ministers from around the world. He was an incredible seer and master. And he said in the year 1940 approximately, he said, first will come 45 years of dictatorship. In Bulgaria, he was talking first. And that's when communism came. It was exactly 45 years. And he said, during that dictatorship, if you're against the regime, you go to prison. You have to really humble yourself. And he said, then for 10 years, it will be calm. And then from the year 2000, all over the world comes a dictatorship for around 45 years that will gradually come. And as we know, from the year 2001 is when the 9/11 happened. And that's when the human rights started being taken more and more, and what we call globalization started happening, one world government from then on. And he said it will keep growing to the year 2045, but he said it will progressively, become this kind of dictatorship. He said it will be even worse than the first one. For us, it was communism, obviously. He said it will be even worse, but it will be all over the world. But he said it will fall apart by 2045, and then humanity will be free. And he gave exactly that year. And you
Amazing.
Chills.
Wow, we should measure him. That's amazing.
So yeah, if you can measure being Saduno, it's his spiritual name, the master, because it coincides so much with what you said, and apparently it's not going to be all in dictatorship to 2045, but people will be working against that dictatorship. So we have 20 years more, 20 years more, that there'll be a big revolution happening. They're trying to impose this dictatorship more and more, and people are resisting more and more and more. So I think it's great that we're getting into anger first, and eventually we'll do it with peaceful means, but it's not gonna stay. Yeah, maybe a decade or two there'll be a strong push, but the push opposite will be even stronger. So
yeah, because it is no long. We cannot condone that. Even when we're kids, how do we behave? We're fine at one point and get used to it. Okay, I don't have a choice. But then as you realize that you can exercise your free will and you learn more about society, then you say, forget it. That's it. I've had enough of this. I want to fly, and that, I think, naturally, that's what humans want. They want inner freedom, and then the ability to feel like they can fly and go anywhere, right?
absolutely.
So this surveillance state and connecting everything, and having one platform that connects everyone with technology sounds cool, right? Sounds practical, and maybe will streamline the processes, many processes. Excuse me, but that's not really the type of connection that we're seeking on a deeper level. We're seeking a different type of connection, a type of connection that we remain free, sovereign, and that we remain in control, not the type of connection that's going to control us, and not allow us to be ourselves.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying, is that we're entering our teenage age as humanity. So it's very apparent, and what you said, this is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to try to put us more under control, like any parenthood, and we'll just go off the charts. And at the end, we'll win our freedom. So we're in for this hormonal, and it starts with, what does it start with? Anger.
That's
Exactly.
it. I like the teenage
Wild
years.
ride. It's a wild ride. It's gonna be a roller coaster ride.
Oh, they're in for the parents above that I am calling it are in for a treat.
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
much again, Elena, Alejandro. I love the insight to give us. I love connecting things from different aspects, and you do it scientifically, which that's the future. That's very Aquarian. It's not just lyrical and feelings, and no, it's measured with instruments. So I absolutely love that perspective you bring and the insight and how you connect it. Again, I'll put the link below. Anyone who wants to become member, or it's a subscription service, so have a reading with Elena and Alejandro about their own vibrational revelation on all those factors that you heard. And believe me, people that watch those interviews, they usually way above the, the 50%, 50, hundreds, usually most, and like you can have, my highest measurement was intuition at 700 and something, or 800. And I was like, oh, wow, really? Since then, I started trusting my intuition. Till then, I was always like, I didn't believe it, but you told me that. Just the confirmation of that was...
It's powerful, right?
It unleashed me to trust myself more. This intuition that you said was so high. And I think it became even higher since then, because I was always not believing, or stopping myself, or wishful thinking, I'm imagining things, but it's amazing.
You own it now.
Yeah, it doesn't leave room for doubt anymore. You know exactly where you stand, and now you move forward with confidence. No hesitation.
My
That's
husband,
very powerful.
it's like his reading was very high on creativity, and I'm like kind of starting to notice that. So it's fascinating. I would advise, if anyone can afford it, or you can just, you can feel it sometimes as well. But for me, it was very encouraging or reconfirming. Like, you have a feeling, but when you hear it from outside, you start believing it.
Yes. Right. And we do, by the way, actually have a special that we introduce for people who become members.
Oh, that's right.
They can get their vibrational frequency analysis at 50% off. It's sent to them as a PDF. So, and then they'll have an option if they want to speak to both of us or not. But we wanted to include that as a service. So for anyone who signs up, they'll receive immediately a link to 50% off.
Yes, and now we have a special, don't we, for the membership?
For the membership, yes. So that's also there, 33% off. Yes.
There you go.
There you go. Happy holidays.
Because I'm releasing this video in December on the first week. So
yes, we have to give you a new link, or December, depending on the date, but more than likely.
Yeah, we'll save it.
Yes, we'll keep the link on for your viewers and followers.
Perfect.
Yes, so they can get the 33% off. Yes.
All right.
So you do the spaces for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Elena and Alejandro taking a group to the Bosnian pyramids. It's all full now. Oh,
it's all full. We fell in love with that place, and actually, when we went there this summer, we weren't sure how we're gonna feel about being there, and the energy was so beautiful. We ended up having, like, I think 3 recordings or 4 recordings now with Dr. Sam.
I thought, what are we gonna do here for this so many days?
In the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere.
But time just flew by so quickly, and we enjoyed it so much, and we felt seriously, and then we confirmed it with the vibrational frequencies, right? Because we measured almost everything, and that it was an amazing feeling, that you don't want to leave that place.
And it's so healing. Actually, we measured the water, so the actual vibration of water is 850. In most places around the world, the water is like frequency of 50 out of 1,000, right? Except things like places like Lake Baikal, pure water. Well, we measured the water in the tunnels, Ravne tunnels under the pyramids, and that water is 850 frequency.
That means it is fully structured.
Fully structured water. And there's actually some scientific experiments that they've done
Yes.
at the university, giving that water to like nursing home facilities. So some of the people, they didn't know they were drinking that water, and others were just drinking tap water. And you could see like markers for diabetes would go down. I mean, it's incredible the amount of scientific evidence now that exists. So we were just so excited because we felt so good being there. And yes, we ended up selling our event within 2 days.
We shared it with our community members, and it was like booked within
2 days.
2 days.
2
right?
days. Yes.
Yes. We put a limit because it's the first time that we're doing this with our community members, you know, and we want to have enough time to interact with everyone and be present. And so we thought that 28 was
next time we'll you know, our goal is to go there at least once a year. And then we're talking about Machu Picchu.
And we're doing different activities, you know, different things as well. Not just the hiking, but other things.
Go in the tunnels under the pyramid. It's the biggest pyramid in the world, guys.
Yes.
It's a complex of 6. There's 6. It's a 6 pyramid complex.
It's almost 10 times bigger than the Egyptian pyramids.
Yeah, and people still now because it's here. It's not a desert. It's covered in trees and forests, and they discovered these are the biggest pyramids in the world. They're all over the world, I think.
They are all over the world, and they're ancient. And the science of the pyramids is just so fascinating because so you don't actually go into the pyramids, you can stand, you know, close to them, because I think they've dug now a couple of kilometers of the tunnels. These tunnels is like a giant network of over 60 kilometers, but you sit inside the tunnels that are leading towards the pyramid of the sun, but you can feel this energy right away because there's no interference, whether it's from earth grids coming in or EMF. I mean, you're literally in absolute harmony with yourself and everything around you. It's pure energy, pure air quality. So there's nothing.
We measured no EMF presence, no negative influences, 0%, you know, and the frequency is higher than.
They really are on ley lines and places of healing and what do they call it? Geomagnetic, yes, phenomenal places, yeah.
Yes, a lot of people go there in groups to meditate. You know, as you walk through the tunnel, you see different groups meditating and in silence, and yeah, it's fascinating.
That's why you want to meet your future husband, not in a nightclub, in a tunnel.
Exactly.
Or at least send the request to the universe from a place where there are no interferences, you know?
So your signal is received.
That's right. The scalar wave technology.
The pyramids are scalar wave technologies. Yes. That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much again, Elena and Alejandro, from sharing from your time and measuring the year 2023 for us. It's looking positive. We're rising up. Yes, we're going to get a bit angry. Yes, who knows, civil disturbances will be happening. Civil, I don't know, whatever, but we're on the right track. 99% aligned with divine plan, guys. So it is what we should have experienced and how we should react. We're doing it right. So congratulate yourself.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have a great year, everyone, and can't wait to have you soon again with interesting insights. Bye.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.